Hey, what's up, Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the brand new September 2020 threequel book, The Shadow Crosser by J.C. Cervantes. This is the third book in the Stormrunner franchise. We have Stormrunner, we have Firekeeper, and then we have The Shadow Crosser. So I am obsessed with this series. I've said this numerous times. This is an imprint of the Rick Riordan Presents books. I am now officially caught up to all of the Rick Riordan / Rick Riordan Presents books. Next ones coming out are The Last Trials of Apollo, Tower of Narrow. I am terrified to read because it's the final Percy book. And then we have the next Tristan Strong book. Both coming out October 6th. I'm very excited. But I am now officially caught up, which is weird to say, because I had a backlog of books for quite some time. But here we are. So, how do I talk about this book? We'll talk about plot points, and then we'll discuss how incredible and amazed I am at finishing. This is the final book of this. It literally says Elfine at the end. So, Zane, it's been like 3 months, something like that, since the Firekeeper. He has been given a demon he has been partnered with a demon, let's put it that way, to look for more Godborns, because there's many Godborns in the world, and they have to be found. Godborns are demigods, but in the Mayan mythos, they are not called demigods, they are just called Godborns, half human, half God. So, Zane and this demon are in New York City. They happen to stumble upon twin Godborns, but they're only registering as one Godborn is left to be found. But it turns out that there are two. They later learn the names Alana and Adric. A-D-R-I-K, Adric. That's how I say it. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Adric. Like Roderick, Adric. That's how I was saying it. So, it turns out the demon was two-faced, go figure, the entire time, and like poisoned Zane, and then like things happened, and then everyone had to get to She-Home by the World Tree, so that way the Godborns can be, you know, starting their training. But Sheetab and Kamazats are still, you know, at large, you know, raising hell, so to speak, raising Shebalba, so to speak, where half the demons of Shebalba are now going to be working with Ishtab and Kamazats to you know, take over the worlds, take over the new worlds, so to speak. So it's a matter of, how do you stop these monsters? How do you stop these demons / gods from enacting their evil plans? But then, while this is happening, the gods themselves get kidnapped and are sent to 1987. Ishtab and Kumazat send them to 1987, but they're like, how does this happen? So then Pacific and her time roper are a big aspect of this. Ren with her shadow magic, being a daughter of Pacific, having a time watch, but also learning that there's time threads in the time watch. Itzamna, who is the moon god, who, you know, keeper of stories, basically. He's in charge of She-Home and the World Tree, essentially. So he's, you know, explaining how the kids are going to go back to 1987 to get the gods. So then it turns out that Ishtab and Kumazats had sacrificed an actual god to raise the Mexica god, the Aztec goddess, the Devourer goddess, who devoured the Mayan gods, was stuck in a water tank, because she's an earth goddess, stuck in a water tank in 1987, Venice Beach, 1987. So then we have Zane, we have Brooks, the narwhal, supernatural that she is, Hondo, you know, Zane's uncle, human uncle, Marco, who is a Godborn, son of the war god. We have Ren as well. We have Adric is with them, right? Yes. Alana, his twin, is kept in the present with Hondo, the Shadow Crosser, kept in the present. So that way Hondo is holding one strand of a time thread, and Marco is holding the other strand of a time thread in 1987. So that way the thread is always kept taut, and you can't let your mind, you know, come up with these theories and deceivery and things like that. So Hondo is the strongest of the Shadow Crossers that we are later finding out. But as the kids go back to 1987 Venice Beach, they meet up with Jazz, who we meet as a giant in the first book, but he's a kid. He's a 12-year-old, long, blonde, curly-haired surfer, skater boy who has a boat named Betty. He helps them get onto a yacht where Prince is performing, and the yacht is owned by the hero twins who just lie and deceive everyone, and they're the ones who are keeping the Aztec Mexica goddess, the Devourer goddess, imprisoned in a water tank because she has the gods inside of her. So Brooks is a water now, and she winds up being able to free them. All this distraction's happening, and then everybody gets back to the present, eventually back to She-Home. But it turns out, after the Devourer goddess throws up the gods, that Kumasats was in there as well. And you have all these different gods and goddesses, but in teenage form. They're not the adult, powerful human forms anymore. They were these weak teenagers now. Incredible! And then you're like, oh, lies, deceit. And it turns out Ishtab was behind this the whole time. Not Ishtab. Ishtab. Right? No. Ishtab is the goddess of the underworld. Did I just get my goddesses mixed up? I believe I did. Bear with me. Ishkik. Shikik. That's who I was trying to say. Ishtab. We like Ishtab. Ishtab and Apuch, god and goddess of the underworld, right? Shikik. That's who I was trying to say. Shikik. Ixkik. It's hard to pronounce these things. Bear with me. Shikik is the mother of the hero twins. Shikik and Kumasats were trying to, take over the world. Shikik is the one who tricked Kumasats into being swallowed with the other gods. Kumasats is still, an ass, but Shikik is the one behind all of this. And it turns out, after she has a little battle with Zane in the jungle of She-Home, that she was at the hero twins party in the very first book wearing the butterfly mask, but it turns out she has many different faces because she's a moon goddess. She's a blood moon. So her face changes because the face of the moon changes. You're like, oh, shit. And it also turns out that she was the demon assigned to Zane the entire time in the beginning. And then there's this massive battle, and then eventually her and one of the twins get stuck in a time loop because of Ren getting the time rope from Pacific, and the other twin gets trapped in a bird cage because his name's Bird, but they put him in a cage. And then Apuch demands that they all throw a party in celebration. So then weeks go by, party happens. Brooks and Zane kiss for the second time. They kiss the first time in 1987. They kiss again at the end of this book. And Elphine, Zane's not worrying about the present anymore. He's not worrying about the future. He's not worrying about the past. He's in the present, dancing with Brooks and his friends and family. Perfect. The reconnection of Huracan, Zane's dad, and his mom was really cool. It was just fun seeing all the battle scenes. And like the last 50 pages were just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Non-stop action. Like pain too. Like you felt like when he's screaming, like you're like, ah. And it's just cool seeing how all the different plots and characters from the first two books were intertwined and explained in this book. This book was an incredible wrap-up of a book. I was very upset knowing that this was the last book when I first started reading it, but I am so content right now and satisfied of this book, wrapping it all so beautifully. It was just so wonderful. Rosie going back to regular Boxmation form thanks to Ishtab, and I think what's really cool about it is that Shikik, her villainous plot wasn't so much to take over the world, but to change the memories of the history, was to change the memories of the supernatural so that way they know her history, portrayed as a hero, not a villain in the story. So she literally burned all the books within the She-Home's library in Biblioteca to change the history. She wanted the stories changed. And that's why Zane was so important to her, because he had the power of the dragon thanks to Insomnia. And the power of the dragon is the, chosen storyteller. That's why Zane had written the first book. Zane had written the second book. Technically, he wrote the third book as well. So it's nice knowing that it's not a matter of world domination, as it was alluded to for quite some time, because that's what it was. Oh, it's a villain. They want to take over the world. No, they wanted to change the world. They wanted to change the world in their image, in the stories. So it's cool. It's a matter of knowledge is power. That's what it comes down to. It's not a matter of good versus evil, as all the old stories used to be. It's knowledge is power. And Shikik wanted to change the knowledge for power. Incredible. I have so much respect for J.C. Cervantes, the author of this, because of what she did in the sense of taking these beautifully crafted mythological characters, mixing them in with Godborns, but throwing in a non-good versus evil storyline. It's a matter of good's not always good and bad's not always bad. You know, Komazas, for instance, the evil bat god from the underworld. He was tricked and thrown into the belly of the devourer as well. It's just so neat seeing this dynamic of these incredibly powerful individuals, gods and goddesses and demons alike, that it came down to knowledge, that knowledge is power, and that Zane now has to rewrite the truths of the Mayan histories based off of the stories that he now keeps as the ash of the books are kept in like these stone jars, and when he needs like a little inspiration, he'll open the lid and like whispers will pop out. So like the history's not lost, but he is making sure that the stories that were changed originally are represented in the actual sense. For instance, like Zip and the 400 boys that he apparently killed. Not really killed, but like that's how the story went. So he's going to change that to the actual facts. So that's cool. He goes on this spiel about what page was it? I marked it. History is myth. Did I hear it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Page 245. Fury rose up in me. Was there anything the twins hadn't lied about? Is history really so messed up that you have to question every word? I recalled the message I'd seen on that wall in Venice Beach. History is myth. Maybe those were the truest words ever written. And that's what's cool about it. History is myth, right? But how is the myth, a story, true? Is all history true? Or is it just manipulated for the audience of the person writing it? For instance, we have a problem here in the States where we have white history. That everything I learned in elementary school, middle school, high school was written by white people when it comes to social studies, history. I had no clue of the depths of slavery. I had no clue of the depths of mass genocides aside from the Holocaust. You learn about the Holocaust, but you don't learn about any other mass genocide. You don't learn about, Chinese genocide during World War II because of the Japanese. You don't learn anything about the Native American genocide. You learn about the Trail of Tears in a PG version, and you learn about slavery in a PG version, but you don't learn, like, the truths behind it. You also learn, like, Rosa Parks was brave because she decided to sit in front of the bus. No, like, this was an organized protest, but that's not discussed in school. You have to learn that on your own. Like, that's stupid. So that's why that blurb stood out to me so much, because the history you learn is not the real history. History is myth. The truth is out there. Wow, I'm starting to sound like a Star Trek person. Excuse me, an X-Files person. But like, what is the real history? So for Zane to have to literally make the real history for all of Mayan myth, so incredible. That's why I'm freaking out about this. Another thing I want to point out, I don't know how long I've been talking. I know I've been rambling, but I'm obsessed with this series. Absolutely obsessed. I need a Black Panther outline on. I don't want it on my hand. That's where Fuego goes. But like somewhere on me. I have eczema on my hands. I don't want a tattoo on my hand. It's not gonna last. But I need a Fuego tattoo. Zane's spear. So oh crap! What was the point of my rambling now? Fuego. Tattoo, book. Hang on, we'll backtrack. We'll remember. Fuego, tattoo. I don't remember. It's gone. I'm just so jazzed about this book that it's. The thought is gone. Oh, man, it's done now. Hey, if I remember it, I'll like write it in like the little description down below. But I think we've said enough. We talked about how incredible this book is. I'm just gonna hold it on my shoulder. this is by far the best Rick Riordan imprint within the Rick Riordan imprints. I'll definitely go Stormrunner series is number 1. Number 2 is definitely Dragon Pearl, without a doubt. Number 3 is definitely Tristan Strong, without a doubt. Number 4 is definitely Race to the Sun, without a doubt. Number 5 is Arusha. Number 6 is Sal and Gabby. Is that it? Oh, and Paula Santiago. We'll keep her at 7. Yeah. Stormrunner, Firekeeper, Shadowcrosser. J.C. Cervantes. Rick Riordan presents J.C. Cervantes original books. The trilogy that it is. Go read it. Oh, I remember. Okay, it came back to me. So, while I was reading this, I got so into reading it that all of a sudden I started to hear, and I wasn't listening to music, I started to hear music. Like, I started to hear, like, a score, like, if you're watching a movie or, like, a TV show, and, like, you know, the emotion builds up, and, like, the score just, like, explodes and, like, trickles down, stuff like that. And it was this scene in 1987 where Brooks kisses Zane, and it just, like, it was romantic, like, la-ti-da music, like, was happening, and it was, like, so, like, orchestral and, like, really cool, and I was like, wow, this is neat. That's never happened before. Like, in my mind, when I read the Vampirates books by Justin Sumper, incredible book series that it is, and it needs to be a TV series immediately, I hear, like, the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, because I don't really know that many other pirate soundtracks, you know? But, like, I've never had music playing in my head without music anywhere else while I'm reading a book. So that took me off guard, but I posted about it, and I was like, books are magical. Like, has anybody gotten so into a book where all of a sudden you start to hear a musical score at a certain point, like you're watching a film or a TV show? So it was pretty neat, and I was very excited, and obviously I'm fanboying about it because I'm clearly gushing about how incredible this book is and how it actually made me hear music in a particular scene. Don't know if that's happened to you before, but hey, readers gotta read, books gotta book. I like that. I like that. That's a good saying because it makes no sense. Books got a book. Sure. Yeah. And to that, we are done rambling. We're done talking. We're done fanboying about this thing. I hope all of you have enjoyed these Stormrunner reviews as much as I have because they've been very informative. And yeah, keep reading. Read on. Readers gotta read. Books gotta book. Mucho mahalo.